Okay, well, for those of you joining, we're having a really good old chinwag in the chat there. So if you could just answer the question, if you haven't already, where are you from and what industry you currently work in, please? I should pop this one up. There we are. Check your email. I sent you a message earlier.
Hello, hi.
Go ahead. Right, okay. So we'll move on to the next slide then. The next question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how familiar are you with the use of Agile approaches in learning and development? So 1 being not at all, you don't use it, bit of a Jon Snow, you know nothing, and 5 being you deliver in this way already, this is just a refresher for you. Okay, so we've got 4, we've got 2. 3 from Lynn, 5 from Chandru, cool. Any more for any more? Okie dokies. Thank you for that. It's really helpful, so I know just kind of like what level of depth to go into going forward. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Mariana to do a formal introduction.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing great. I would like to welcome you all to today's India event on using Agile approaches to build impactful learning. On behalf of Agile People Ops, me, Mariana, your host, would like to thank you all for taking out your time and joining us today. I would like to introduce our India Country Ambassador, Rohit Babul. He's a driven, energetic HR professional who has worked in the HR industry for over 7 years. He has successfully executed and supported critical HR initiatives to drive cost efficiencies, enhance employee engagement and effectiveness across operations, and develop and implement innovative policies that enhance efficiency and efficacy across operations. His particular experience includes implementing agile methodologies and delivering continuous business transformation projects. I would now like to call upon Rohit to introduce our speaker, Roxanne Allen, and say a few words. Over to you. The stage is all yours.
Hello. Hello, hi. Thank you so much for joining this session. And sorry for the late. I stuck into the traffic and that's why I reached late. But yes, we have a very great personality in this session. I never met the Roxy about health physically, but yes, we met each other with our thoughts. So Roxanne Allen is a very experienced people leader, and she is a very enthusiastic person to about the learning. She drive innovation into the HR, we can call that people team, and mostly the more talent development, like learning and development session. She have a very good experience, employee experience, and yes, she working with the decade of experience. She have a address a very unique way about the challenges with the creativity, design thinking, and people-centric problem-solving ability she have of it. Yeah, she's a very she's a what we call that agile people ops country ambassador for the UK, and yeah, She introducing the roles in mostly into the digital health organization. Yeah, she is a most powerful woman into the agile part, and I thank you so much for having today with us. Actually, I'm very pretty much interested about to learn from Maxima about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rohit. That was such a really powerful introduction there. I hope I live up to it. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen again. She says. And we'll get started. So you'll notice I've been a little bit cheeky and I've changed the title of the session. I reflected on it and I thought, you know what, this feels a little bit better for me. So that's one of the reasons it's slightly changed. So building impactful learning with agile approaches. I'm just going to give a quick kind of overview really quickly. So we're covering Lean Coffees, we're covering Lean Sprints, or Learning Sprints, and we'll be covering TBR as well. And this includes a couple of interesting approaches that when I ran a TBR session last week, we got some feedback on. So I'm iterating on that feedback as we do in the Agile space. And just to kind of let you know, there'll be some what we call 1-minute body breaks on there. And this may feel a little bit jarring because it kind of stops the kind of flow of the process, but this is just to let your brain kind of settle a little bit. So with that said, we'll get the show on the road, shall we? I am being notified that my camera's not on, but I will get that sorted for you in 1 second. So let me know in the chat if you can see me, just a thumbs up or whatever. That'll be really useful.
Roxanne, maybe put the camera a bit down. You're not able to
Sorry.
see.
All right, can you see me now? Can you see me now? Is that any better? Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to kick. Okay. So why we need to use agile approaches in learning in the first place? Well, people are posed with way more information than they have been previously. They're having to make more decisions on that information in less time. They're having to make sure that all of those decisions equate to high impact. And as people professionals, we need to ensure that we're enabling people to be able to do that. And we also have the same challenges. So that means we have to work a little bit differently. So I was recently reading a book by Jonathan Smart, who you may have heard of in the sort of business agile space, called Sooner, Safer, Happier. And he has a whole section, I think it's chapter 8 of the book, that covers learning. And he mentioned something called nested learning loops, and I'd never heard of this term before. And it's essentially the pre-existing elements within ways of working. So this is things like your daily stand-ups, your reviews, your OKR reviews. It could be community of practice. All of these elements that already exist in a very mature agile environment that learning and development folks we're not leveraging. And we really need to be able to get in there to build the relationships, to start speaking the same kind of languages that the operations are speaking. 1, as I say, to build a relationship. 2, so that we can replicate some of these experiences so that the gap to application isn't as wide. So that's one of the reasons why I started looking at some of these experiences, such as the Lean Coffee that I mentioned. And we're going to go through that one first. So I know that the Agile People Ops Indian community is quite familiar with the Lean Coffee because Rohit ran one, I think, last week. I think it was Rohit. I'm just going to give a quick overview You'll notice that my slides are really like limited on text for a really good reason. I just don't want to write a dissertation for you guys to be reading. But essentially, a lean coffee is an agendaless meeting that uses the kind of to-do, doing, done frame to frame out that conversation. People democratically bring forward the agenda items. They vote on them. Whatever gets upvoted then is moved across into the next lane. Then it's agreed whether or not that has been completely discussed, and then that's moved into the final lane of completely discussed. And you may have an additional one where it covers off your actions. And I think this is an opportunity then for learning folk, for people to start leveraging the data from these conversations. Now, if you don't already have these established in your business, another good reason to do that is because it provides meeting etiquette and best practice. If people can manage a lean coffee, which is agendaless, imagine how successful their meetings will be if they actually have an agenda. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's a really good tool for us to start utilising within business. So what I have actually, and I've created a fake lean coffee for us to have a quick look at, and I've identified some of the actions that I would take off the back of that. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen for a moment, and then we're going to flip to a whiteboard. Can you guys see the whiteboard?
Yes.
Yes, we see.
Okay, excellent. I'm not as familiar with Zoom, but I did note that the whiteboards on here are actually really dynamic. I was able to create a Kanban board within literal seconds, and as soon as I started writing on the tickets, it was pulling things across and putting them into categories and all the rest of it. So hopefully you'll be able to, as that loads up, it's a little bit slow for me. Apologies. So you can see there on the left-hand side that there's the lean coffee example. I've already started moving them across. So we've got one in the discussing, and then we have 2 items in the discussed and a couple of elements that I've included there in the L&D actions. So it's just started loading up now for me. So I'm just going to zoom in. So you can see there, oh, I can see Lucas and Rhiannon all over that. So that's great. I can see you guys interacting with that board. So you can see that there's an example where a manager has done some 360 feedback. They're not too sure about how to present that feedback to the individual. So I've identified that actually maybe we need to have a discussion around how feedback is presented in the business. Maybe we need to do a session that's a little bit more interactive to allow people the opportunity to do some safe practice before handing out that feedback. And maybe we need to align that to a performance cycle. I've also outlined that maybe there's a policy review to be done and some required comms as well. So that's an interesting question. So I have posed, Monica, within my organisation where we're looking to implement lean coffees in the next couple of months, that we start off with sort of like 45 minutes to an hour and see where we get to. And then you can get the feedback and then, change it as you go based on the feedback that you receive from the participants. I think it also depends on the audience as well. So if you've got more senior like senior leaders, maybe those conversations might run a little bit longer because there's quite a lot to talk about. But we're starting off with the management community in our business. So how do Rhiannon, that is a great question. So we're looking at two different ways of doing this. A standard lean coffee is agendaless, so people can bring to the table whatever they want, but you may want to actually make this more themed. So within our organisation, we're thinking about our employment life cycle. So it may be that we have a lean coffee that runs just before we start doing performance reviews, and we may ask prior to that lean coffee being scheduled for some agenda items so that we've got things ready to go, and that meeting can run a little bit quicker with it being a slightly shorter length of 45 minutes. Hopefully that answers the question there, Rhiannon. How many votes do you get? That's an interesting question. I'm not entirely sure, if I'm being completely honest with you. I don't know if Rohit would be able to answer that question a little bit more fully.
Okay, so the question is how many votes do you get on? It's the whenever we started to similarize questions to merge into the one particular questions. For example, we get how to transform the question HR, okay, from traditional to HR. Again, the question is how can we innovate our policies or HR's department. So these kind of the similar questions. So yes, you vote only one questions because of we discussing duration. The time is only 30 to 45 minutes, and we need to discuss more deeply about that question. So we are going to only vote like one vote to that particular question. So accordingly that we can deeply work on.
So one vote, one person. Yeah, that's the way that we're probably going to introduce it. Thank you, Rohit. Excellent. So I will stop sharing that for a second, and then we can get to we can get back on track with our session. And apologies if it's a little bit laggy at the minute, guys. I think my internet's struggling with the whiteboard and everything else, but we'll get there. So, do you remember I said that there'd be a 1 minute break and it might feel a little bit jarring? So your brain a little bit of a breather. A lot of the session has been built out using TBR, which is neuroscience backed, and it's really important to allow the brain to rest so that you can continue to learn. I didn't realize how important sleep was until very recently when it comes to learning as well. So that's one of the reasons why I'm just giving that moment there. You may want to take a sip of water, take a couple of box breaths. You may want to nip to the loo real quick if you can manage it. So that's one of the reasons why we have that. And I'll just give us up to 23 minutes past just to breathe through that. Okay. Hopefully we've moved on to my next slide because, as I say, it's being a little bit slow. There we go. So we're going to talk a little bit about experiential learning now. And one of the things that I found in my research was that organizations that are introducing Agile into their business often use something called an Agile dojo. And this is where you're able to utilize your own backlogs, your own workloads as they stand, but apply the Agile methodology to them. And this allows people to learn through doing, as opposed to kind of, going off and doing a week Agile kind of course away from the work that you're actually going to be doing day to day. And people are able to address their own priorities and objectives, and you buy in a little bit more to that learning as well. And we can take inspiration from this kind of environment. And the next concept that I'm going to share with you guys does exactly that. And that's training from the back of the room. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you've probably heard me talking about this to no end. And yeah, we're going to get a bit of a flavour of that very quickly now. So training from the back of the room was put together by Sharon L. Bowman. So she's written the book, literally, called Training from the Back of the Room. And I first heard about this methodology via Lakshman Ratnaravi. I hope I've pronounced his name correctly. And he's the co-creator of the comic Agile series. And as I said, it is a neuroscience-backed process, which is underpinned by the 4C framework. It is learner-led and often used by Agile coaches as well. And one of the reasons it's favoured is because it allows for that safe space to practice newly acquired skills and knowledge. So we have the 4C model there on screen, and I'm going to go through them to kind of give you a flavour of what each one does. But as you can see, it is sort of 4 key segments to that model. And we actually ran a TBR session last week using collaboration as our main theme. So we covered psychological safety and situational leadership and a little bit of delegation as well. And we got some really positive feedback about the concrete practice element of this. So I'm hoping that by sharing that, it kind of wins a few more votes for it. So the first C in connection. This is making sure that people are connected to the content, they're connected to the group, each other, and they're able to establish their own why, which brings them closer to the content. The next C is concepts. So this is delivering only the need to know information. This is where you're able to just deep dive enough and then provide additional information through something called a concept center. And you can do this online as a whiteboard. We did it in that fashion, or you could have it in person on a table where you've got all your kind of resources that people can dip in and out of. It may be things that you don't actually fully cover. So we included things like the PERMA model, which I didn't go into, but people were able to review that. The third C, the one that really excited, is the concrete practice. So this is where we're using games, scenarios, all that kind of thing to really embed that learning and apply for safe application. And we actually got some really good feedback from somebody who said, I don't usually like scenarios, but this was a good experiment for me. I was able to apply that learning. And the final C is conclusion. So this is a learner-led element again, where you are able to do it at quite a quick pace. It feels like there's a lot of segments there, but it is a very quick one in terms of summarization. You can ask for a one-word explainer from the audience on what they've learned. You could ask for a couple of words to cover off a word cloud in terms of evaluation. So how have you found the session? In terms of action planning, because I'm a little bit cheesy, we had pillars of promises, and I got a Grecian pillar and put it on a board, and people were able to pop on a ticket what thing they were going to take from that session to do on the job. And in terms of celebration, what we chose to do is a bit of a souvenir. So the concept center was twofold, because we handed it back to that audience and said, you guys can now build this out even further with your own research tools and models. So what I have here is a completed session plan. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I'm very mindful of time, but you can see that we've covered out the connection, so a warm-up activity, and I made a promise to somebody that I was going to do some A/B testing around this warm-up activity, because initially I've asked for colleagues to speak to managers and speak to other people about how they prefer to receive feedback, but actually we could ask them directly how they want to receive their feedback. You would then do a fast pass, which is where you can get people to quickly share how they have encountered that feedback and what their reflections are. Then again, to the introduction and housekeeping. This may feel a bit meta because we kind of did that earlier. I've shared two concepts there, the feedback trap and the situation behaviour impact model. And then we have the concrete practice where we've got two different types of activity, one being a scenario script review, one being where another person or a group of people can then play different roles, being the giver, receiver, recipient, and observer in a breakout room scenario. And there's a couple of different options there for the conclusion that you can draw on as well. What I've also added, which I didn't have in the original 4C, was the post-session activity. So that's making sure that you're continuing that conversation right through to on-the-job application, looking at the tools that you could use to do that. Maybe Slack, you might have Slack, you might have Teams, you may use Zoom. We have an LMS that has a forum, and we're able to keep the conversation flowing through that. So, in one sentence, could you just tell me which C do you feel is the most impactful and why in the chat, please? Concrete practice? Concrete practice? Okay, yeah. Why are we feeling concrete practice, Lucas and Rhiannon? Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. So it's doing that we learn better what we know. Absolutely. So any more for any more? Okay, we'll move on. So we're going to look at learning sprints. And this is something that I've been toying with in a couple of different fashions. So just in case no one is familiar with a learning sprint, it is a broken down learning goal across a period of time. So this could be 2 to 4 weeks, for example. And you have identified the goals that you want to achieve within that period of time. So when I first started introducing these to my organisation, I did mini ones. So we did, it may be something that you can read, something that you can listen to, so maybe a podcast, an article, and then a video as well. And I always embed these in my communications so that people kind of got used to doing a little learning sprint. You could expand that out using a learning management system and create a learning path of content. And that may be something that we're introducing for more specific topics that come out the back of a lean coffee, for example, to kind of tie those experiences together. Again, you're able to then, one, speak the language, because within the Agile space, sprint is very familiar. And two, you're able to build out your relationships, again, showing our our level of impact, basically. So that just to kind of bring that together. So it's an iterative learning of new or modified knowledge skills within a specified time frame, usually 2 to 4 weeks. That can increase throughout as well in terms of that complexity. So I thought, well, I could show you one, it's more fun if we build one. So I have built one out in our whiteboard. So I'll stop sharing and we'll go back to the whiteboard, and you'll actually be able to pull the tickets onto the correct week. And you'll notice that I'm actually using the 4C to do that. So in the first week, we have connection, and then we continue down that path for the full 4C cycle. Added some of the resources, so you could actually do this for real. You could actually do the real learning sprint. So let me just get the whiteboard ready. Oh, we seem to have gotten the apologies, we seem to be having technical difficulties at the minute. I'm trying to just get the whiteboard ready. Mariana, is anyone else able to share that whiteboard?
Yes, I've already shared the whiteboard, Roxy.
You've got it, okay.
Are you unable to see it?
Just bear with me a second. I've got not responding on my laptop for some reason.
Okay, we've got a thumbs up from one of the audience members. So I think it's visible.
Oh, we got thumbs X. Oh, excellent. Okay, what I'm going to do then is I have my phone up there ready as well, so I can talk you through it through that if it doesn't start to load quick enough. Which it is not, so not to worry. Okay, so on the whiteboard there that you've got along the sides of the schedule, you've got all the different tickets that relate to the different areas. So you've got week 1 being connections, week 2 being concepts, week 3 being concrete practice, and week 4 being conclusion. So you guys should be able to grab one of those tickets and drag it across to the correct week. Rihanna's on it.
Yeah, I don't know where to put it though.
Oh, what have you got there? So you've got read training from the back of the room by Sharon Bowman as an introduction. But okay. I'll give you a few minutes and you can absolutely confer. You can talk in the chat, you can come off chat. But there should be enough tickets for everybody. You can't pick up, Lucas can't pick up the notes. I wonder why that is. If you tell me which one you're wanting to work on, Lucas, I'll move it for you. So analyze feedback and detail improvements. I think it goes into week 4. I think you could be right there, Lucas. Right. I'll move that across for Weston's already done it. There you are. Oh, sorry. Got a couple more to go. no one's put anything in connections yet, have they? Awesome. I think that is the last one. Okay. So, as I say, because I'm gonna have to look at two screens on this one. Are we comfortable? Are we confident? Do we feel like we've done it? I will show you a completed version. Don't worry, Monica. Not sure, not sure. Not to worry, not to worry. Okay, it looks like we're there. Not necessarily in the right place. It's no worries at all. So I'm going to try and zoom in. There we go. Okay, we didn't do too badly. You guys did all right. Okay, so analyze feedback. You were bang on, Lucas, in terms of that the last one there on the conclusion. Create an action plan, correct. Reflect on your own practice actually was in week 1. Design and deliver a mini TBR session, bang on, concrete practice. Review tools to support your delivery. That one I popped in week 2. The actual reading of the book is the initial connection, which was week 1. And watching Sharon's slide share again was week 1. Reviewing the trumps were week 2. And sharing your experience with your community and peers was a celebration. So that's the final week there. But like I said, I will share the full completed learning sprint for TBR with you, and you'll be able to review all of the links and resources. I think you can probably highlight over them, and they should pop up with what they are on the slide share there and so on. Excellent. Thank you for taking part in that, guys. So what I'll do is we'll go back to the main deck. So as I say, it's a wee bit laggy, so I'm hoping it is sharing. Are you able to see the screen as yet? If you could just let me know in the chat.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. So we've got a wee poll that Mariana's going to pull up for me. If you wouldn't mind sharing that, Mariana. So the question is, how likely are you to try out some of the techniques that we looked at today, i.e. the lean coffee, the TBR design session, or a learning sprint? Oh, someone was straight in there with a yes. Absolutely. Excellent. Looks like everybody's going to give it a go. One person, not yet, not quite ready yet. Couple people might share with their colleagues. Excellent. I think that is 8 out of 8 answered. So is that everybody? Okie dokies. Mariana, whenever you're ready, you can end that poll there if everybody's answered.
So when the poll and I've shared the results.
So yeah, we can see, so we've got 75% of people saying absolutely, they're already planning a session in their minds, they're good to go. We've got one person saying maybe, I'll share with my team and see what they say. And then one person who's not quite ready and not for a while yet. Cool, so am I right to stop sharing that one? Right then, so I think I've got one more slide as a parting shot for you guys, and then we can get into some Q&A because I think we will have time. So I wanted to share some resources with you guys. You've heard me talk about Training from the Back of the Room, the book from Sharon Allen. Again, I think it's filled with some really interesting activities that are interchangeable. You can sort of move those in terms of the topic base and keep your sessions very energetic, high energy, and allowing people to really drive their own learning within the context of your topics. I also wanted to share the Agile L&D book that Natal Dank has just released. I speed read through it. I need to go back and read through it properly. But there is a section there on return on investment, some really good advice and some great data points for us to be looking at if we're talking about impactful learning and development. And then there is the How People Learn by Nick Shackleton-Jones, which is an old favourite of mine. Hope he doesn't mind me calling it that. But it is filled to the brim with some really great stuff around neuroscience and learning and minimal viable products or minimal lovable products that we can build out iteratively for our people in the business. And I just wanted to leave you with this final quote from Sharon L. Bowman, which is, as long as our learners are passively sitting and listening to us talk, they aren't learning very much. So it's a bit controversial, but I do agree with it. So with that, I think I'm handing over to Mariana and Rohit and kind of wrap us up and see if there are any questions. Is there any questions in the chat that I've missed, or? I don't know if, Mariana, you're on mute.
Yes, if there is anybody who has any questions, you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat box.
Oh, excellent. That's great to hear, Lucas. Thank you. The quote is cool. I think so too, Monica. I genuinely do. It's a bit like tongue-in-cheek almost, but yeah. Can't quite see any questions yet. But yeah, this was a really good session, guys. I'm glad that you were able to get involved. So what tools and technologies are available to support Agile learning development, and how can they streamline the process for instructional designers and educators? Oh, that's a big question. Okay. So I can tell you my experience of using a platform that is literally built for it. So we use 360 Learning within my organization, and it has a learning project or learning project management functionality built into it. I absolutely love the system. I have to say, I can't champion it enough. If you get the opportunity to review, get a demo, just get a demo just to see what it's like. But you're able to bring in your stakeholders and they can update any kind of content that you're working on. You can provide updates to a forum kind of built into it, and then you're able to agree everything through statuses. You've got your kind of Kanban to do, doing, done kind of thing going on as well. And as I said, because you've got that feedback loop with your stakeholders involved in it from the beginning of whatever the concept is, it makes the whole process way better. And you're going to deliver more impactful learning if your stakeholders and your subject matter experts are part of that journey right from the start, where you're defining and doing your development. So hopefully that answers your question, Rohit. Lucas, I see your hands raised.
Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to add something about the process of instructional designer and educators, the question itself. One of the things that I learned is that not everyone learns in the same manner. This is like a neuro-linguistical programming. Yes, one of the settings, and one of the tools that we can use is questionnaires or I don't remember pools, for example, to learn ourselves as teachers or educators how our community or our team learns, so we can provide better ways to teach them or how to approach the topics. For example, if someone is visual or someone gets better for sounding or someone is kinesthetic, that kind of things. And there are other kinds of learning like musical or mathematical, logical. So I believe those are great tools too.
Thank you for sharing that. I always find it interesting when people specifically bring up 70-20-10. I know you haven't referenced it, but there is literally no basis for 70-20-10 in terms of like scientific backing. But I agree with you that there are absolutely different preferences for how people want to learn, and that's why one of the things that me and my team do within my organization is deliver multi-layered solutions. So we're trying to think, and we kind of pulled that in through a bit of experience through design thinking. So anything that we're building out, what do people think, do, and feel about this as being like the basis, as opposed to being, okay, I need to think about auditory, I need to think about the kinesthetic or whatever it may be. It's thinking about, well, what does it mean to that person, and what is that persona or that person likely to use that information to do, and how will they leverage it, which determines often what is built out in the end, if that makes sense. I don't know if you disagree, if you agree, but that's kind of how we've been approaching it internally. Oh, I see Rohit has, oh, go on, Lucas. Sorry, you put your hand up and it went back down.
Yeah, sorry, misclick.
Okay, cool. So what are the challenges L&D teams are facing in the implement phase? Buy-in. I say that with a giddy laugh, because sometimes that is literally the challenge, is that you've built out your solution, and you may have a couple of key stakeholders who you're using as kind of like what I used to call learnfluencers. So you're trying to get them to encourage other people in the business, but maybe something has happened in the business. There's a challenge that they're facing that has had a knock-on effect for what you're doing and what you're delivering, and that can cause a little bit of a delay, and you might need to go back to the chalkboard and see when is best to actually implement that, or you might want to reduce that down from being like a department-wide thing to just looking at specific teams. We've done that as a workaround, because sometimes when you do that, another team will look and be like, oh, what's going on over there? And then suddenly they're quite interested in that solution as well, even though you built it for them anyway. So yeah, that would be my response to that, Rohit. Are there any more questions as we come up to 5 to 5? UK time, that is. I'm very aware that it's a different time zone. No further questions? Okay. Mariana, Rohit, do you want to wrap up?
Yes.
Oh, my pleasure, honestly, Rohit. This is really fun.
Thank you so much, Roxanne.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Rohit.
Yes. Thank you so much. I have this is the very and I'm sharing about that very great session for me and each and everyone else. So I have many questions right now, but due to time constraints, I holding that. But yes, we will arrange one more session with you again the same topic, and we'll discuss in deeply with it. So thank you so much. Yes, Mariana. Yes.
Thank you so much, Roxanne, for this wonderful session and for enlightening us on the use of agile approaches, which will help us in our learning. Thank you once again.
Oh, no problem. It was a genuine pleasure. Technical issues be damned. So thank you for bearing with.
You will all receive a feedback form link in the chat box. Would request you all to share your feedback. So what do we have next? We have our upcoming India Coffee Chat event scheduled on May 20th. Join Rohit and experience Agile Minds, Coffee Finds, an exclusive coffee meet for HR professionals, exploring Agile methodologies where you'll unwind in a relaxed setting, share best practices, discuss the latest Agile People Ops trends, and build valuable connections with peers, all while enjoying the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. To register for this event, kindly scan the QR code below or join using the link shared in the chat box. You all can join our LinkedIn groups to get further updates on upcoming events. To join our APO Global Community group and India Community group, kindly scan the QR code below or join using the link shared in the chat box. Additionally, we also have our community platform to collaborate and engage with other passionate individuals. You can join using the link in the chat box. Thank you all once again for joining us today. We appreciate your time and participation, and we hope that you found today's session very informative and engaging. Stay tuned for more. We will be coming up with many more sessions for you to learn and grow with us. And hopefully Roxanne will join us once again for another session.
Absolutely.
We will share the recording for the session
Thank
to
you.
all those who attended, and we will also upload this session to our Agile People Ops YouTube channel. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day ahead. I'm Mariana, your host. Will be signing off today.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.